Non-car people think of Tesla as the most powerful, most capable electric car company out there, and with good reason. The Tesla Model S and Model X Plaid have incredible power and sprint capabilities. The second-generation Tesla Roadster will, we are told, have so much acceleration that it will make you question what you had for breakfast, what you might be having for lunch, and probably what you had for dinner last night. In fact, it's why so many people are eagerly awaiting for its official production launch. We're told by Elon Musk that Tesla's claimed 1.1 second sprint time for the spiciest of Tesla Roadster variants, the Tesla Roadster with SpaceX package, will come courtesy of a pair of cold air thrusters powered by compressed gas tanks hidden in the vehicle. If it makes it to production with these tanks, it will, I think, be the first car to make use of any kind of non-jet thruster to aid in its acceleration. Over in Europe, Croatian firm Rimac has just revealed the production version of its most recent concept car, the C2, now known the Rimac Nevera, and it's the most powerful production car ever made. Full stop. At a cool $2.45 million each, only 150 Neveras will be sold, and looking pretty similar to the C2 Rimac unveiled as a concept car 3 years ago, the design isn't something that I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on. But with specifications that truly make you gasp, and with interest from multiple automakers in the company that seemingly made the impossible possible, I'm going to explain why this is a car that you should most definitely know about, and why it's a car that you should also pay attention to. I know. This is, yet again, another incredibly expensive car that you and I and 99.99% of everyone who watches this will never get to own. Heck, this is a car not for the 1%ers, but a car for the top 100th of a percent. Why then are we, a channel that tries to champion more affordable, equitable transportation solutions, focusing on a car that's none of the above? I'll get to it. First, let's talk about the story of Rimac and what it means for the electric vehicle industry. Then we will look at the technology and specs of the Nevera, and then look at why it's a fairly unique car in its design, and how this could all pan out into the auto industry as a whole. Rimac's history can be traced back to 2007, when Matej Rimac, company founder, converted a 1984 BMW 3 Series, E30, into an electric drift car by himself in his spare time. A keen racer, his car's engine had blown up during a race, and so he decided to see if he could turn it into an electric drift car. He was 19. That vehicle, which became known as the Green Monster by future Rimac employees, was the seed that started Rimac. When the company was founded in 2009, the car became Rimac's first test mule, setting a series of new records in FIA's Category A Group 8 and Class 3 classifications. It produced 442 kilowatts, did the stoplight sprint in 3.3 seconds, and completed a quarter mile in 11.808 seconds. Its top speed? 174 miles per hour, 280 kilometers per hour. And it was also pretty good at drifting. Why is this such an important origin story? Well, unlike Tesla, which was started by entrepreneurs Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, guys who were fans of cars for sure, but weren't car engineers, Rimac can trace its origins back to an enthusiast who wanted to do something cool with a car whose engine had died. Someone who showed what was possible on a limited budget, and then let his car do the talking. And there's something inspirational about that. I could go on and wax lyrical about it, but let's just say, as someone who has turned plenty of wrenches in my time and worked on my own cars, designing custom parts and problem solving on a budget, well, I think that Rimac's origin story is truly beautiful. When you learn that Matej Rimac played a part in helping a fan by building them an electric wheelchair powered by Rimac's battery technology, well, it makes him and the company even more awesome, as far as I'm concerned. To the Rimac Nevera via the C1. The C1 was Rimac's first production vehicle, made in limited numbers, only 8 were produced. It cemented Rimac as a company that could actually deliver vehicles that met the company's claims. It had a sprint time of 2.6 seconds and, thanks to its 960 kilowatts of all-wheel drive goodness, went on to a top speed of 221 miles per hour. Which is 355 kilometers per hour. It's also the second most expensive car that Richard Hammond crashed, but let's not go there. The Concept S followed the Concept 1, shedding some weight in its goal to be a track-oriented version of the Concept 1. It was even more powerful than the C1 and became the first electric car to be sold through official Rimac dealerships. Then we come to the C2, first debuted in 2018. It was promised to be the most powerful Rimac to date. With carbon fibre construction and butterfly doors, the C2 has always been a thoroughly good-looking car. At least, if we're talking unobtainable hypercars. For the last 3 years, we've seen it go through massive amounts of testing, from cold weather tracks and racetracks through to the pain and agony of seeing it crash test. And this week, the C2 became the Nevera, a name that comes from a particular type of Mediterranean wind that sweeps through Croatia every year. And as a side note, that's a new wind for me. In a former life, I was an oboist who recorded a suite of short pieces for oboe called A Reed in the Wind by English composer Julia Usher. They focused on portraying some of the world's winds. If you want to hear me play, you can do that here. But I am digressing. Nomenclature aside, those of us who've been lucky enough to drive it, including our dear buddy Johnny Smith over at the Late Break Show, you really should subscribe to his channel if you haven't yet, say that the Rimac Nevera is a car like no other. A car that really does break the rules. You see, in addition to some truly incomprehensible specs, a 1.85 second sprint time thanks to a quartet of electric motors producing 1.4 megawatts of power at the wheels, a quarter-mile sprint time of 8.6 seconds, a top speed of 258 miles per hour, which is 412 kilometers per hour, a total vehicle weight of just 1,950 kilograms, 4,300 pounds, and a 120 kilowatt-hour battery pack that produces a range in excess of 340 miles, 550 kilometers. The Rimac Nevera is shockingly also road legal. Oh, and it also outperforms the Bugatti Chiron. I know what you're thinking. At nearly $2.5 million, it needs to do all of that and more, and it does. Aside from Rimac's powertrain system, which uses torque vectoring and drive-by-wire and a completely separated motor and drivetrain controllers for each axle, Rimac says the Nevera will use 12 ultrasonic sensors, 13 cameras, 6 radars, and the NVIDIA Pegasus autonomous vehicle hardware we saw debut at CES in 2018 to bring Level 4 autonomous operation to the Nevera. And if you're thinking, well, that's hardly innovative, you would be right. Lots of cars have fully autonomous capable hardware and they're waiting for over-the-air updates to make them actually capable of autonomous driving. But for a car that performs on the track this well, that's all kind of unusual, especially when you realise that the Nevera also has a full in-car infotainment system, telematics and all of the other stuff you'd expect of any high-end EV today. But to think this comes from a company which started in someone's garage 12 years ago? That's pretty special. So far, I'm guessing not a lot I've said has got you excited about the Nevera, unless you are a total car nut like me. But what I'm about to say will. It's big. Really big. See, the automotive industry has, so far, struggled to make the transition to electric vehicle technology. Companies have been, frankly, slow to make that transition. They've not really pushed forward particularly quickly. And they've used their checkbooks to make up for a lack of in-house knowledge. This has taken a variety of different paths, but when we discuss Rimac, it's important to know just how excited the company has gotten the mainstream automotive world. To date, Rimac has worked with Koenigsegg, providing the battery pack for its Regera plug-in hybrid hypercar. It produced the hybrid kinetic energy recovery system for Aston Martin's hybrid Valkyrie sports car. It engineered the battery packs for Jaguar's retro mod E-Type Zero concept car. And it was the company that powered the Cupra E racer concept for Seat. It was the company that provided batteries and drivetrains to Monster Tajima and his 2015 Pikes Peak hill climb race car, a vehicle that finished second position overall, beating all internal combustion engine vehicle variants. But then there are rumours. It's rumoured that Rimac is going to buy Bugatti from the Volkswagen Group, something that's not yet confirmed. But when you learn that Porsche, which is obviously also part of the Volkswagen Group, owns 24% of Rimac, well, it's something we should certainly bear in mind. Hyundai Motor Group, which is Hyundai and Kia, is also a major shareholder in Rimac. It owns 14%. And the Camel Group, which is the company from China that specialises in battery production and recycling, owns another 14%. Which leaves us where? A company that has grown to 850 employees, has a massive new production facility under construction, is partly owned by some of the big names in the auto industry, and has worked with plenty of others. And that is the key. And that's the thing that you should be really excited about. You see, Mate Rimac never intended his company to make just high-end, luxury, unobtainable hypercars that sit in full-colour prints on bedroom walls and in million-dollar garages around the world. He saw those cars as a way to promote and refine the technology underpinning those vehicles, and then selling that to the rest of the auto industry, to become a parts supplier and technology partner in a world that is dominated by just a handful of incredibly powerful Tier 1 suppliers who, frankly, haven't always been all that hot on electric vehicle technology. There is a lot of money in the parts industry, and any company that can sell and engineer its technology to larger, more established brands can really make a massive difference. Which brings me here to the crux of my piece. Rimac is, in my opinion, like Lotus was back in the 60s, 70s and 80s, a company that was built on engineering principles and technical proficiency, a company that could make its own vehicles but really came into its own by breathing life into models from other firms. If you've never heard of the Lotus Cortina, the Lotus Carlton, or the Lotus Talbot Sunbeam, well, you might not get my point, but for everyone else, Rimac could be to the EV world what Lotus was to the internal combustion engine world, as well as parts supplier and engineer to so many, many more regular brands out there. And that makes me very excited indeed, because I think that way lies more affordable and more impressive EVs for everyday folks like you and I to drive. That's it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.